Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to PhotoBiz Live. This is Joanne from the PhotoBiz team, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about troubleshooting PhotoBiz style. If you've ever wondered how those wizards of PhotoBiz Passionate Support work their magic, today we'll take you behind the scenes and show you some of the tips and tricks that we use every day. You'll find out a little bit about how to diagnose and fix some more common issues, and you'll learn some of our favorite little troubleshooting secrets. In addition to getting the opportunity to learn from me in today's webinar, we'll have a question and answer session at the end so that you can submit your questions using the chat tool, and we'll answer them after the presentation. You can also join in the discussion on Twitter by using the hashtag #PhotoBizLive. If at any point during today's webinar you have any difficulty hearing me or seeing the slides, please use the comment box and let me know. We'll also be recording this webinar. It'll be available for replay on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/photobiz. With that being said, let's jump right in. Okay, in this webinar, what we're going to mainly talk about is how to improve your workflow by showing you how to fix some of the more simple problems that you can encounter while working with your PhotoBiz site. We'll help you gain some insight into how your site works and help you prepare for those times when you do need passionate support so that you're ready with the information that the agent will ask you for. I also want to let everybody know that slides from this webinar will be made available for download in PDF format. We've had a few requests for this, and we want to go ahead and make this one available, especially because there's going to be a lot of information presented on these slides, and that way you can get the PDF with all the information on it. So, and you'll receive a link when you get the follow-up link to the recording for where you can go to download the PDF. So, part one, we'll start with the easy stuff. If your site's not up, the very best thing that you can do to start off with is view your website in your browsers. Now, you can view your website in the main browser that you use, but it's not a bad idea to go ahead and look at your website in all of the browsers that you have available to you. The reason for this being is sometimes you may have a problem with maybe your cache needing clearing, or it may be just a problem with one of your browsers. This will let you rule that out fairly quickly. So the main thing that you want to do is verify whether the problem affects your entire site or only affects certain pages. If the problem affects your entire site, this is usually related to your domain name or your site's publishing. If the problem affects only certain pages, this is usually related to content or settings. So what we'll do now is take a look at some of the more common issues that can crop up with each of these particular situations. Common issues that might affect your entire site. If you see a blank white page instead of any pages of your site, if you receive an error message, if you see a generic image that is not your site, or if you see your old site. These are the most common things that we encounter in our support team that will affect your entire site. So we're going to take a look at each one of these individually. Let's see here. Okay, blank white page. When you view your site and you only see a blank white page, usually this means that you haven't published your site yet. If you click on the Publish button in your control panel and check the date of last publish, if your date says not yet published, publishing your site should solve this problem. Now, one of the things that I do want to make mention here, and that is if you are receiving the blank white page and you do see a date there, go ahead and try to publish it anyway. What we found is that on occasion, sometimes updating your SEO will populate a date there. So it's a good idea to go ahead and publish it if you haven't done so, or even if you do see a date there. A lot of times that will solve this problem for you. The next most common thing that we see is error messages. So if you see an error on your screen indicating that the browser cannot find the server, you might also see the dreaded 404 page cannot be found error. Generally speaking, this can indicate that there's something going on with your site's domain name. So if you have a new domain name and you've only purchased your domain name within the last 24 to 48 hours, it might still be new and the domain name system is still updating. Basically, when you purchase a domain name, it goes through a process called propagation. What that means is that at the domain registrar, the information is put into their servers, and then it's made available to other servers who will update from the registrar servers, and then those servers will make the information available to even more servers. So it's kind of a domino effect that will spread across the internet. This process can take generally within 24 hours, but it can take up to 48 hours. And so what will happen during that time frame, it's not uncommon for you to see your old site and then your new site and then your old site again, or for you to see your new site but your friend down the street to see your old site. That's completely normal within the first 48 hours. This issue should generally resolve itself within 48 hours. If you've had your domain name for a while, check with your registrar and make sure that your domain name hasn't expired. You usually can log right into the control panel of wherever you registered your domain name, and you'll see right there if it's been expired. Most of the time with most domain registrars, if it's less than 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks, you can re-register it for no extra charge. If it's gone over, some registrars will actually charge you a little bit more. But for the most part, you can usually re-register it right away. If your domain name hasn't expired, try visiting downforeveryone or justme.com, and that will show you if the site is down for everyone or if it's just down for you. If it's just you, you might want to try clearing your browser cache. Now, with clearing the browser cache, you can view, we have several methods available because different browsers can be different in how this is handled. This is kind of one of those things that never really hurts you to try, particularly because browsers will save information in an attempt to get you information quicker when you go to a site, but they don't always update if you've made changes. And so anytime you're seeing something you don't really expect, this is something it never hurts you to try. Now, we have a full article available in our knowledge base. It's under the facts, hints, and tips category. In clearing caches, the article is called How Do I Clear My Browser Cache? And that walks you through most of the common browsers. The one thing to keep in mind with clearing your cache is that different browsers can be very different, and even the same browser can be different from one version to the next. So just to kind of give you an example of how much of a difference that there can be in what the various things are that you can encounter. With Safari, generally speaking, you can just click on the Develop menu and choose Empty Caches. With Firefox, if you click on the word Firefox and then click on Preferences, then click on the Advanced icon, you'll find there's like a network button, and you'll find an area that says under Cache Web Content, there will be a button that says Clear Now. If you click on that, you'll be able to clear your Firefox cache. With Chrome, there's usually a tools icon at the top right. It looks like 3 short horizontal lines. If you mouse over this and then click on Clear Browsing Data, it'll pop up a little page where you can clear all of your cache data. With Internet Explorer, there's a tools menu. If you don't have the tools menu turned on, it may look like a little gear. So if you click on Tools, then Safety, then Delete Browsing History, you want to make sure with IE that you uncheck the Preserve Favorites website data, and then make sure Temporary Internet Files is checked. Now, in all these cases, the only thing that you actually need to clear is the cache. You don't really need to clear the cookies unless you're having trouble logging into your site, which is a completely different issue. And you certainly don't need to clear your stored password data if you have that. So you don't have to worry as long as you uncheck everything but cache. You don't have to worry that you're going to be wiping out your passwords. So you're good to go there. Okay, the next most common thing we see is a generic image. If you've ever gone to your website and seen this girl, this is usually indicative of your domain name having expired, and quite a few registrars will use this or a similar type of placeholder page when your registration needs to be renewed. Logging into your registrar account and renewing your domain registration will generally resolve this issue for you within 24 hours. If you haven't checked your site in a while, if you had an old site, you didn't do much, and now you decided to go ahead and either create a new site or get a sub-site and use your old domain name with it, if it's been expired for more than a couple weeks, you may have some extra charges. Again, that's something you can usually find out from your domain registrar. But once you get it re-registered, you're generally good to go. So, your old site, here's one that we do run across from time to time. If you visit your website and you see your old pre-PhotoBiz site, there are a couple of things that can happen to cause this to occur. If you switched your domain name within the past 3 days over to PhotoBiz, again, this is usually caused by propagation, and the change is likely still in progress. Domain name changes generally occur within 24 hours. They can take up to 72. A lot of times, too, it kind of depends upon where you are. In some areas or some domain names can take a little bit longer. One thing I wanted to give you an aside here, if you're creating a subsite, if you've recently created a subsite and you're all set up to use subsites in the PhotoBiz system, generally speaking, those will come up within a couple of hours at most. So this primarily applies to your main domain name. If you switched your domain name more than 3 days ago, take a look at your publish date. If your last publish was within 3 days of changing your domain name, you might want to go ahead and republish your site. We can sometimes run into a situation, and this primarily occurs on portfolio sites. It can happen on Flash and Flash Plus, and it can happen on the HTML5 portfolio sites because of the way those sites, when you update your sites, you're updating the information and then you have to publish it. So if your last publish was in 3 days of the change, sometimes it will display your old site because that's what was active at the time that you click publish. Republishing your site can resolve this problem. If you have a content store, biz site, or blog, those sites are all updated in real time, and so generally speaking, this won't be a problem. Publication generally isn't a problem. So if you have one of those sites and you switched your domain name more than 3 days ago and still see your old site, double check with your registrar and make sure that the change did go through. Okay, so now if you go to your site and you see an issue with some pages, but other pages are just fine, and it's very page specific. Generally speaking, those issues occur when they occur are content related, and these are things that you can usually fix very easily. The most common things that you might see that are page specific is you might see some gibberish or code appearing along the top of your screen. You might have menu items that periodically appear and disappear. You might see some of your text on your content pages is displayed and some isn't. So we'll take a look at each one of these and I'll show you how you can fix those. If you see gibberish text across the top, and you can kind of see on the screen there, we have an example where it looks like just a string of code right across the top of the page. Generally speaking, what causes this is if you have updated your visit counter with scripts such as like what you would get from Google Analytics or Google Webmaster Tools, and there's a script tag, and you can kind of see on your screen what it looks like. It'll look like an open bracket and then slash and the word script and close. Leaving that tag off or part of that tag off when you copy and paste your code in can cause this problem to happen. And the thing that you'll find frustrating is that it doesn't appear on your preview. It'll only appear once you publish your site. But it's easy to fix. If you see this occur, go back to Google Analytics or whoever you get your visit counter code from and recopy your code and then repaste it in, make sure it's all there, republish it, and it fixes this right away. Now, something to keep in mind is this only occurs in Flash and in Flash Plus portfolio sites. The HTML5 portfolio sites use a slightly different method where you only need to enter the actual UA number that you get from Google Analytics, and we populate the rest of the code for you. And then the way that the HTML5 content store and blog sites are designed, if you leave off part of your code, it just doesn't show up. So this will only happen in Flash and Flash Plus. Disappearing menu items. This can be one of the most common and one of the most tricky to kind of track down of problems that you can encounter. And generally what this will look like when you see it is, you know, you build your site and you pick some colors that look really nice with your images, and then you go to look at your site and you're watching your pictures go through, and all of a sudden text on your menu disappears, and then in the next picture it reappears. Or you might be going through and looking at your pictures, and all of a sudden it'll disappear, and then you just never see it again. The most common cause of disappearing or invisible menu items is related to color shifting. When you set up a color shift, a lot of times, like for example, when you create your site and you'll choose an export color scheme, or you'll create your own color scheme and you'll get everything all set, and then different types of templates within the system, and this can happen again on portfolio sites, and it can happen on content sites as well. You'll go in and you'll select pictures that have a color scheme. You'll go in and open up the picture and select the color from the picture, and then if it happens to be really close to a color in your menu, then what will happen is when it hits that color, it will change the background or change the text or whatever, depending upon that particular template's style, and all of a sudden it's the same color as the background, or the text is the same color, or rather the background becomes the same color as the page, or what have you, and you don't see your text anymore. The easiest way to correct this is to simply go in and modify the selected shift color. Now, what you may find will happen in some situations too is if you were kind of experimenting with the color shift and you tried it on a couple of things, and then you took it all out and you missed one, and all of a sudden it changes color on one picture. So you might have to actually spend a little time going through your individual images. Another place that you can kind of run into this is when you change your template or your color scheme. If you change templates, it will keep your custom color scheme and it will keep your color shifting selections. And so if you see this happen when you change templates, you might want to just take a spin through the color selections on each of your images, because changes in how color shifting is displayed from template to template can sometimes be impacted by color shifting, where on a different template it wasn't a problem. So you may need to do a little bit of footwork in checking through your images, but generally speaking, that's going to be the main cause of this issue occurring. Now, if you want to remove a color shift completely from any individual picture, when you go into the text box, just clear the text out and resave it, and it'll set it back to the default color, main color scheme that you've selected. Okay, partial text display. This is another one that we can run into from time to time. Typically when this occurs, what it will look like is your text will cut off abruptly, even though you have all of your text entered into the text content box. When you go and you look at it, you only see part of it. It just stops. And gee, you know, it's not really showing what I wanted it to show. The most common causes for partial text display are excessive text or text formatting, copy and pasted text from Word documents, or special characters. The easiest way to kind of quick fix this issue is to copy all of your text and paste it into a text editor such as Notepad or TextEdit, and then copy it from the text editor, paste it back into the text content editor, and then basically if you have formatting like bold and italics and so forth, to reselect it. Now I'm going to kind of touch on a little information about each of these common causes to kind of give you a little bit more background to work with. With excessive text or text formatting, one of the things to keep in mind when you're working with text is that each of these, the portfolio sites, the content sites, and so forth, they have the text editor, and there's a limitation to how many characters they'll support. Now, they'll support quite a few. You can put a lot of text in. But something to remember about these text editors is that when you format text in the background, it's adding in code to make the text display a certain way. And the text editor is counting these as characters as well. So sometimes you can put in some text and it doesn't seem like it's excessive. Excuse me, but if you have a lot of bold and italic, you've changed sizes several times, you've got headings in there that are big and other pieces that are small, and then you've got colors, each one of these changes that you apply adds code in, and that code is all counted. So if you have, let's say, you know, I think it says something like 14,000 or 15,000 characters. Let's say you go in there and you say, well, gee, you know, when I looked at this in Word and it's only about 7,000 characters, I should be fine, but you've made a lot of different formatting changes throughout your text that you will actually hit that limit and not seem like it's that much text. So removing all of the formatting and reformatting it to kind of try to be conservative with the formatting will help with this. You can also, especially if you have like the content pages where you can add more text pages. Sometimes breaking your information up into multiple pages, if you have a lot of text information, can help you with this problem. And the one thing to keep in mind, if you end up needing to create several pages of text information that is basically broken out from one, you can add a drop-down menu and group your text pages under them so that all of your comparable content is listed under like a single drop-down. So it groups it for you. With copy and pasted text from Word documents, this one can be a little bit tricky. And it kind of ties into the third one, which is special characters. When you compose text in like a word processing document such as, or word processing software such as Microsoft Word, there will be formatting characters in the text that are hidden to when you're reading it on the screen. And a lot of times if you're copying from Word or something similar to Word and pasting it into the text editor, these hidden formatting codes are getting pasted in there and you're still not really seeing them. So sometimes you can look at your text and you can go back into your text editor and scan through your text and, you know, gee, I don't have a lot of formatting in there. It's all pretty basic, and I still am having this problem where my text just stops abruptly or not all of it displays. This is a time that is really, really helpful to copy your text and paste it into something like Notepad or TextEdit, because generally those are text-only editors that will strip all of that out, and then you can just recopy it and repaste it back in, and it will usually solve this problem for you. One of the things that I want to kind of suggest is if you're on Windows, you might want to look into grabbing a free program called Notepad++. If you use a Mac, you might want to look into grabbing one called Text Wrangler. These are both free, and what they are is a text-only editor that gives you just a little bit more functionality. What I have found in working with Notepad and with TextEdit is that Notepad++ and Text Wrangler will sometimes show you hidden characters that the more simple ones that come with your operating system will miss. And so particularly if you've tried this a couple times and you're still having trouble, try one of those programs and you may find that that will reveal whatever the character is. Now when you find the hidden character, a lot of times it will just look like a little square. It'll just look like a block or just kind of some funny little mark. So it may not even look like it's a very big deal, but it's you know, it's what's causing the problem in the text editor. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about image uploading. And image uploading is one of those things that generally speaking is pretty easy to fix if you're having a problem, but can be really frustrating to track down if you're not sure where to start looking. Just kind of to give you a little bit of background, we use an image uploader, and if you've ever uploaded images and you get the little pop-up thing when you go to install it and it says it's a Rigma, that's the name of the company that designed it for us. It's a browser-based uploader. It does not contain any malware or adware or anything extra. It won't trick you into trying to install anything on your computer that you don't want. It's just the uploader. It runs on Java in Firefox, Chrome, and Safari, and it runs on ActiveX in Internet Explorer. Now, the most common issues that we can run into with image uploading, and we find that typically when you're uploading from a PC, there's not a whole lot of problems. Macs can be a whole other story, and if you've ever tried to upload images from a Mac, you're probably kind of familiar with the fact that they handle images in a much more complex manner than PCs do. So the most common images or image-related issues that we run into, images look dark or images look washed out. These are Mac specific, and I'll touch on why that doesn't happen on the PC in just a moment. So pixelization and artifacting, this can be kind of a common thing when you upload an image and you look at it and it's like, wow, this looks over sharp, or I don't know, man, my saturated areas look a little funky. And you also may run into occasional situations where your images look a little bit like a photo negative. So we'll touch on each of those. Images looking dark and images looking washed out. This is very specific to Mac. It's usually related to color profile or color space. You may have heard it referred to. It can be related to gamma settings if you're using an operating system prior to 10.6 Snow Leopard. And the reason for this all comes down to color profile sRGB IEC 61966-2.1, which for the sake of brevity, we're going to refer to going forward as just sRGB. This is basically it's a web-safe color space. The PC does not usually need for images to have a color profile change because the color profile is stripped from the EXIF and JPEG format. Macs, however, do save color profile information even in the JPEG format. What will happen is non-web color profiles contain more colors than the browser can display. And so what will happen is if you're uploading an image that does have color profile saved and it's not a web-safe color profile, it may be trying to display colors outside of its color profile space. And this will cause some areas to look washed out or other areas to look dark, and it can even affect the whole image depending upon the colors that you have in the image. So what you want to do is make sure that all of your images before you upload them are set to a standard web color profile of sRGB. Now there is a caveat here, and that is to make sure that you only change the color profile on your image copies or save images as copies once you update the color space. If you save your originals in sRGB color profile, it will render them unsuitable for printing because there are fewer colors than there are in Adobe RGB or a CMYK. So that's something to just be very conscious of when you're working with converting images to the sRGB color space. Make sure that you save them as copies or that you make copies and then work on your copies, and then you'll be fine and you won't have any problems with your originals. So you have basically there are two ways to update your color profile in a picture. The most common and probably the easiest way is method one, which is to configure Photoshop to alert you when you open an image that is not in the correct color space. The way to do that, if you go in Photoshop, and this is, like I said, this is very Mac specific because you don't really run into this on a PC at all. First you'll want to open up the Edit menu and go to Color Settings. You can kind of see it highlighted down here at the bottom. Step 2 is you'll want to set your working space under the Settings section to sRGB. And then step 3, in the Color Management Policies section, you'll want to check all of those boxes. You'll have one that says Profile Mismatches, Ask When Opening, and Ask When Pasting. And then Missing Profiles, Ask When Opening. You want to make sure those are all checked off. And then click OK to save your settings. Now what this will do is when you open up an image that is not sRGB, Photoshop will give you a little pop-up that will tell you that the image is not in sRGB, and it will give you the option to either convert it or leave it alone, or remove the color space. So you can go ahead and select the choice to remove it or to change it to sRGB, and then you'll want to save it as a copy to a different folder right away so that you don't run the risk of auto-saving over your original. And that way you'll have the image will be in sRGB. You won't have to worry about the color space going forward. So, okay. Now the second method is to convert an image individually, and that is if you don't want to change your working profile. I mean, you may have a custom working profile that uses a different color space like Adobe RGB. So you want to only convert images that are your PhotoBiz, intended to upload to your PhotoBiz site, and that's fine. You can do them individually. And the way to do this is when you have your image open, again, you'll go to the Edit menu, and you'll select Convert to Profile. And then in step 2, you'll get a little Convert to Profile dialog box that will open up, and you'll see destination space, and for profile you can select sRGB, and then you'll go ahead and click OK, and that will convert that particular image to the sRGB color profile. Again, then you can go ahead and save as if it's your original. If you've created a copy to work on, then you're fine. You can just go ahead and save it. And that pretty much, yeah, okay. Again, you won't need to really do this on a PC because it will strip the information for you. Now, if you're not working with Photoshop, if you're working with a GIMP or another type of software, and you're not sure how to convert the color profile space on those, go ahead and give our Passionate Support folks a call, and they'll be happy to help you do that. So. Now we'll talk a little bit about gamma settings, and this may not be something that affects a lot of people, mainly because it only occurs if you're using 10.5.8 Leopard or earlier, and I think most people by now have kind of upgraded past that, but if you're working on an older machine and you do run into this problem, it's really good to know how to fix this. And that is, prior to 10.6 Snow Leopard, Macs used a native gamma setting of 1.8. The web standard and what PCs use is 2.2. Now from 10.6 on, Macs use something called color sync. And if you're working with images intended to be saved for the web, then color sync will automatically adjust the gamma to 2.2 for you. However, if you're using these older images and your images look dark after you upload them, you may need to adjust your gamma. Now the way to do this, it's really easy to do. You'll go into your system preferences and click on displays. Then you'll click on the color tab and click on the calibrate button. If you get an introduction window, just go ahead and click continue. On the next screen there'll be, it'll say select a target gamma, and you'll want to choose 2.2 television gamma. Click continue. You'll want to leave your target white point just as it is. You don't have to change that. And then you'll get the opportunity to name the new profile. So go ahead and name the new profile, click continue, and then click done. What this will do is create a color profile that you can switch to when working with your PhotoBiz images, and then you can switch back to your default profile when you're done. So if you run into the situation where your images look fine on your computer and you upload them and they're really dark, generally speaking, if you set up a profile where you have your 2.2 gamma, you'll be good to go. So, pixels and artifacts. We all run into this from time to time. To give you kind of the resize dimensions, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the resize dimensions for your sizes, if you're going to go with regular full screen, we recommend 1500 by 865. If you're going to upload using the HD feature, you can upload in 3000 by 1730 pixels. In most cases, you don't need to resize your images because the PhotoBiz uploader will do it for you. However, if you run into a situation where you're seeing your images look over sharp, or the more deeply saturated areas look kind of funny and looks like kind of like JPEG artifacts in them, you may find that it helps your image quality if you resize them yourself. Again, like I said, if it's overly sharp or pixelated, or you see compression artifacts, this is caused by very large originals, and it can be caused by JPEG compression. JPEG is a lossy format, and basically what that means is in terms of when it compresses, it's basically compressing without math calculations, essentially. And so some artifacting is a little unavoidable, but you can compensate for that, or when you get the sharpened look, you can compensate for that. If you make sure that you're uploading images that are smaller than 10 megabytes, what you'll find in general is that you'll run into this issue with Chrome, Firefox, and Safari at a much lower image size than you will with Internet Explorer. And Internet Explorer is mainly because ActiveX is a little bit more robust in how it handles the resize algorithm, basically. So what we suggest is that upload images that are smaller than 10 megabytes. Sometimes you can kind of push it up to 20 megabytes, but if you're uploading from your originals and you look at them and they're larger than 20, the reason that we suggest maybe going ahead and resizing them yourself is because if you're resizing them with something like Photoshop or GIMP or another image editing program, the algorithms that it uses are quite a bit more sophisticated than what you could put in a browser. So they're going to handle the resize a lot more smoothly, and you'll get a much better look from it. So you might want to also resize very large originals that contain deeply saturated tones, and you'll see this most commonly with very, very vivid reds and very rich blues and purples, to where in some of the richer areas you'll find that you'll get a little bit, the little compression artifacts that you can get in JPEG are a little bit more visible. Sometimes you can kind of offset that by bumping the saturation up in your image a little bit, but for the most part, if you're running into that problem, go ahead and try giving it a resize and see if that solves it for you. And negatives. If you've ever uploaded an image and had it come out looking like a negative, chances are what happened is you uploaded it in CMYK. Our system, CMYK, is essentially a print a print color profile for 4-color printing. And if you upload an image that's in the CMYK, the system tends to not really know what to do with it, and sometimes you will get it. Sometimes it looks okay, but if it inverts it like this, really all you have to do is remove the image, save a copy of it, convert the copy to sRGB, re-upload, and you should be good to go. So, and then of course there's always the, oh my goodness, I can't upload my images. And especially if you've been uploading images for a while without a hitch and suddenly it doesn't work anymore, this can really be frustrating. And what usually is the case in this situation is that you just need to have your uploader upgraded. Our passionate support agents can help you. They can upgrade your uploader and help you get it installed if you're running into any problems with that. So just kind of as a general rule, because we do periodically release newer versions of the uploader, if you've bought a new computer since the last time you talked to us, if you've switched from a PC to a Mac or from a Mac to a PC, and even if you haven't bought a new computer and you haven't talked to us in over a year, we miss you. Give us a call. Usually in that span of time we've updated the uploader, and the new uploaders can sometimes have more features and newer features. So if you can't upload, just give us a holler and we'll help you. So. Now this is a list of some of the helpful little websites that we kind of use here in Passionate Support for various things that might help you kind of just figure out when you're running into some problems. The first one is one I mentioned a little earlier in the webinar, which is Down for Everyone or JustMe.com. This is really kind of helpful if you're not sure whether there's a problem with your website or a problem with your internet or what have you. Another thing that can be really useful, in particular, if you're going to other pages just fine and you can't see your PhotoBiz website and it looks like it's down for everyone, you can also try to go to the PhotoBiz website, photobiz.com. If that's down as well, it's probably us. If not, and you're not able to figure out what's causing the problem with your site, going through the little tips that we gave you, again, you can always give us a call. So. Javatester.org is very useful for making sure that you have the latest version of Java or that your Java is working properly. For the most part, you're not really going to run into too much trouble with this unless you're having some problems uploading. That's usually where it's most effective, but it can be kind of good to know, like, if you can't upload, you're having trouble uploading, you hop over to the website, plug it in, it says you need to update, you might be able to upload just fine. So. Google Apps status, this is actually not related to PhotoBiz sites in particular, but I know that a lot of you do use Google Apps for email, or you might use Google Docs. And if you're having trouble with your email, you can hop on over to google.com/app status, and a lot of times that will show you if Google is experiencing problems or if they've been experiencing some connectivity issues. Favicon generator, this one is kind of fun. As you know, your PhotoBiz site supports the ability to create a little favicon. This particular site will let you hop over and just create a little favicon and then save it in the proper format so that you can upload it right to your PhotoBiz site. And copy paste character is kind of a useful little site if you're ever trying to put in your trademark or your copyright information or whatever. This is really useful because I know with PCs a lot of times you can just do like the Alt 0153 to get the trademark symbol, or there's little alt codes that you can type in, and you don't necessarily have that on a Mac. So if you don't really want to go digging through your character maps, you can go to copy paste character. There are several sets that it allows you to view, and then all you have to do is click on the character and it'll copy it right to your clipboard. Okay, so when all else fails, there's always Passionate Support, and we're always going to be there for you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can always give us a call. When you do call, there's some information that we'll ask you for to help us start working on diagnosing your problem. And what I'm going to do now is just touch on where to find that information so you can kind of look it up and have it ready for us when we call, and that'll just help things go a little bit faster. The main things that our Passionate Support guys are going to ask you for is your computer operating system if you're on a Mac or PC, your operating system version, whether you're on Windows 7 or 8, whether you have Lion or Leopard. They're going to ask which browser you're using and what the version of that browser is. And most of this stuff is really easy to find. If you're on a Mac and you want to find your Mac operating system and version, what you'll do is just click on the little Apple symbol and then click on About This Mac. And what that will do is pop up a little box that'll tell you right below where it says Mac OS 10. It'll show you the version. Then you can see in this particular example, we're looking at version 10.7.5. Okay. Mac browser, for all browsers, it's pretty simple, and it usually works the same way in all of them. Up at the top, just click on the name of the browser and then click on About. So in this case, we're looking at Chrome. It'll say About Google Chrome. If you're looking at Safari, it'll say About Safari. So you'll click on that About link, and it'll pop up a page or a box with the browser name and the version listed. In this example, you can see right there where it says version is 28.0.1500.95. On the PC, finding the PC operating system and version is also fairly simple. What you'll do is click on the Start menu, and then in the little menu that'll pop up next to the right, one of the selections will be Computer. On some older systems, you may see it say My Computer, but for Vista Forward, it just says Computer. If you right-click on Computer, you'll get a little context menu, and from there you'll want to click on Properties. What that'll do is pop up the little box with the properties for your system, and the very top of it will tell you what the Windows edition or the Windows version is that you're using. In this case, for example, the OS is Windows 7 Home Premium. We really just need Windows 7. So PC browser, finding the browser version can be a little different for every browser in the PC, and sometimes it can be a little bit of a snipe hunt. So if you go to, like for example in Chrome, up at the very top right, you've got a little symbol that looks like 3 lines, and that's the Tools menu. You may have an actual Tools menu. If you don't have a Tools menu, look for a little gear symbol, and you'll want to click on those. And that will take you to where you can see where it'll say Help, or rather it'll be in the Help menu. And one of the Help menu selections will be About, similar to the way that it looked on the Mac. In this case, it says About Google Chrome. It might say About Internet Explorer and so forth. Once you click on About, you'll get a box that will open up, and it will display the browser version for you. In this instance, for example, the version number is 28.0.1500.95M. So if you have all that information ready for us, give us a call, and then we'll be able to kind of get that information and go from there. So, okay, questions and answers. If you have any questions, you can use the chat box. You can also submit questions live via the Twitter feed using the hashtag #PhotoBizLive. Again, I just want to reiterate as well that the slides from today's webinar, because they have so much information on them, we're going to make them available for download in PDF format, and you'll receive the link in the same follow-up email that you'll get with the link to the actual webinar itself. You can also, if you like, once we get the webinar up on YouTube, you can contact Passionate Support, and they'll be able to pass that information along to you as well. So if you have any questions, fire away. Let's see. Okay, I have a question here from Adrian, and Adrian asks, we live part-time in 2 locations 200 miles apart. Should we have a website for each location so that we can make it specific to each locale, mountains versus city? That's kind of there's a lot of factors to weigh into that. If you're looking at focusing in on your local SEO, it may make sense for you to set up subsites, and particularly if the type of photography that you're going to focus on is very different for each locale. If you're really if you're going to focus on the same basic information and you just want to make sure that people in both locations know you're available, really you don't need to set up separate websites. You can put your contact information. You can actually have multiple contact pages, or you can put your contact pages in your contact information can reflect that you're available in both places. It really kind of becomes a personal choice thing. Now, if you wanted to find out some information about how that will affect you for local SEO, what I would definitely suggest doing would be to contact our Passionate Support. It's 1-866-463-7620, and you can get an SEO, kind of an SEO consultation with any one of them, and then we also do offer an SEO service, and they can give you a little bit more detail about that, but they'll be more than happy to give you some advice and some feedback about, which one would work best for you. So. Okay, let's see. Any more questions? Okay, well, it looks like that's pretty much all of the questions that we have. Like I said, if you have any more questions or if you need help with anything, you could always give us a call and check in with our passionate support people. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to talk to you. I really want to thank everybody for spending some time with me today. A recording of the webinar will be posted on PhotoBiz's YouTube channel at youtube.com/PhotoBiz. The slides will be available in PDF for download, and also make sure to check out our blog and watch your email for updates about future webinars. Our next webinar will be Posing and Lighting for Profit with Jamie Hayes, and that'll be next Tuesday, August the 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That concludes this episode of PhotoBiz Live. Have a great day, everyone.